Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Indies Introduced series, where we spotlight debut authors handpicked by booksellers from around the country. In each episode, a bookseller from the Indies Introduced panel will interview the author of a debut title featured in our program.
Hi, my name is Marisa, and I'm a bookseller and social media and marketing coordinator at Ballast Book Company in Bremerton, Washington, and I am so lucky to be here today with Xenobe Purvis to discuss her Indies Introduced selection, The Hounding. Xenobe read English literature at University of Oxford, has an MA in creative writing from Royal Holloway, and was part of the London Library's Emerging Writers Program. She is a writer and literary researcher with essays published in the Times Literary Supplement, the London Magazine, and elsewhere. Her debut novel, The Hounding, publishes on August 5th. This was a book that I read really early on in the selection process, and I always knew that it would just make the final list. And I just really adore this very claustrophobic, dark, lyrical, historical story. And something that I have been telling everybody is that if it had been written 100 years ago, I think it would have been a classic today. I just absolutely loved it.
Thank you so much, Marisa. This is so lovely to hear. And thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be on the podcast.
Thank you for being with us. So I'll get started with my questions. And I really want to talk about what readers first see when they find your book on a shelf in the store. And that's the amazing cover, first of all, with that amazing oil painting.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it was amazing. And then, of course, the title, The Hounding, which it's such a simple title, but that single word I feel like contains multitudes. We have the literal definition of hounding someone and pursuing and hunting someone, kind of the way that the townspeople pursue and hound the Mansfield sisters. And then, of course, we have the Mansfield sisters who are being accused of turning into hounds. So I guess I just wondered what your inspiration for the title was, and was it easy or difficult to come up with?
Good question. It took a long time to alight on the title. It came long after the book was finished, actually. I liked that The Hounding invites questions of the readers. Who is doing the hounding and who is being hounded? That really appealed to me. Tucked within it is a kind of secret secondary meaning I found in a dictionary of very rare and old usage of hounding to mean a mythical creature, part human, part dogged. I loved that meaning was hidden in there somewhere. And finally, I really enjoyed the boldness of it. Which I think it shares with titles like The Lottery. Shirley Jackson was much in my mind as I was writing.
I'm actually really glad you brought up Shirley Jackson because this novel has been compared to classics such as The Virgin Suicides and The Crucible. And it actually ended up really reminding me of Shirley Jackson and her writing style, as well as an Austrian author named Marlon Haushofer, who wrote The Wall and Killing Stella. And it really, the similarities kind of lie in the ability to vilify the mundane. And there is this incredible sense of tension that squeezes the reader as they're going through the story. And it's, the real horror comes from humans and these everyday decisions of these everyday townsfolk. And, we've seen a lot of examples of this throughout history. So I was wondering if there was a real life example that led to the inspiration for The Hounding.
As you say, there are many examples of this kind of thing throughout history. I was actually inspired by a specific historical event. I came across the true story of a village in Oxfordshire in 1700, in which a great rumour was said to be spreading that 5 sisters had been quote, seized with frequent barking in the manner of dogs. I was obviously fascinated. I was fascinated to imagine how the girls' community would have responded to their case, and also how this rumor spreading might easily have become dangerous and even violent. I'm afraid, shamefully, I'm not familiar with the novels of Marlon Haushofer, but I agree with what you say about this incredibly sinister aspect of Shirley Jackson's work, the vilification of the mundane, as you put it so beautifully. I Yes, I think that is definitely terrain that the Hounding shares with Jackson's stories. Like her, I'm very interested in thinking about the everyday sort of awfulness of people. But I also wanted to try to understand even my most detestable characters. I really wanted to find a degree of sympathy for all of them in order to inhabit their thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, we definitely see some detestable characters in
Yes,
the
you.
Hounding. If anyone is going to be compared to a beast, I feel like it would be Pete Darling,
A
the
terrible
alcoholic
character.
ferryman. Yeah, he kind of kicks everything off.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, with his hatred of the Mansfield sisters and pretty much any woman who doesn't serve him.
Yes,
Uh, yeah,
absolutely. No, I mean, it was fun seems like the wrong word, but it was definitely a kind of gratifying creative challenge to get inside the mind of someone like Pete Darling, whose worldview is quite far from my own. But I really tried to get under his skin and believe what he believed for those pages that I was inside his mind.
yeah, I can't imagine being inside his mind. The way his thinking works and the way he justifies his actions. There's a part where he says, essentially, he's punishing women because God punished Eve, so it's his right. Um, and then there's also a moment where he reveres his mother as if like she's the only woman that he actually holds any value in. And seeing the way that he, yeah, justifies his actions and the cruelty he inflicts on the Mansfield sisters was really, really interesting.
Yes, I mean, I'm so interested in that kind of hypocrisy, hating women and revering your mother and drinking all day and believing yourself saintly. It's so fascinating to me. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Uh, do you also think that kind of the environment that he's in led to his mindset? We have the riverbed drying up, which again is such kind of a mundane thing to happen. It's such an everyday occurrence, but he has so much pressure on him as the ferryman who helps the town people across the river and back, and losing that, does that really add into his decision making?
Yes, I the riverbed drying up sort of served a twofold purpose. I loved the idea of it, the imagery of it, the revealed riverbed of husks and bones that really spoke to me as a novelist. But it also has a very technical function in that without a river, the ferryman has no work. And so he spends his days getting drunk and obsessing about these five Mansfield sisters. So, yes, I think his situation is certainly heightened, especially because he has inherited this livelihood from his father. And so I think he feels as though the river drying up is somehow his failed responsibility, and he's not living up to, the example of his father in some way.
That does kind of go into my next question about some of the central themes in The Hounding about girlhood. And something that I really took away that I've been telling everybody about is the way that the basically people in this novel, they see actually people outside of the novel as well, but they see young women as other, and they treat them so differently, especially if these young women don't serve the purpose that they set out in their minds for them to serve. And I was wondering how it felt to explore these themes of feminism and toxic masculinity during the writing process.
Yes, these themes are constantly on my mind. The safety of girls, the policing of their bodies and behavior. These are concerns that have preoccupied me since my own girlhood. The Hounding gave me license to explore these quite familiar themes through different lenses. As I say, the book follows the perspectives of 5 characters, most of whom are boys and men. So trying to imagine myself into the minds of those characters allowed me to revisit themes of female autonomy and, as you say, toxic masculinity from different angles, which was a new way of thinking for me. But as I've said, it was quite a rewarding one, challenging but rewarding.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting how we did get the point of view of so many townsfolk and just so many characters, but we never see the point of view of the Mansfield sisters themselves, which really intensifies that ambiguity of what's going on. Are they actually turning into dogs? Are they not? Is it a collective delusion brought on by the summer heat? Is it magical realism? Like you never quite know. And was that, not giving the reader that insight through the minds of the Mansfield sisters, was that a conscious decision? And if so, what led to that?
Yes, absolutely. One of the driving mysteries in the novel is the question of what is happening to the Mansfield sisters. And in order to preserve that mystery, we needed never to access their perspectives. Instead, we follow the perspectives of 5 external characters, each of whom only has a partial understanding of the events and whose viewpoints are often at odds with each other. I yes, I felt establishing rumor spreading and misinformation as kind of central themes, and looking at the way that they take hold in the village. I really wanted the narrative structure to reflect this kind of swirling, shifting delivery of information. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is very like dizzying and
Mm,
just suffocating
yes,
aspects of the writing and what is actually going on in the town as well, and the way they speak to each other, the way they speak to themselves. And
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
I wanted the reader never to be quite sure of their footing. So with each of these perspectives, we're not entirely sure if we're being delivered the truth. So many of the characters are so very delusional. So there's not a lot of trust we have in these kind of narrative voices.
yeah, for sure. It also makes me think about how you said this is actually based on sort of a true piece of history. And it really makes me wonder what happened to these real life sisters who were accused of being or of turning into dogs, and how that played out in real life.
Yeah, I really searched. I found I mean, I tried as hard as I could to excavate what became of these girls, as is so often the case in history. The testimony of the girls themselves is missing. What I did find, beyond the doctor's letter, which inspired this whole thing, I found in the village in which the girls were described to be living, a probate record from some years later. I can't be sure that this family is the same family, but it describes five sisters, and they are all that much older, and they're all alive. So I take from that some kind of hope that the girls survived. And what I did do actually is I stole from that record the five Christian names of the girls. So the names of the characters in the books are taken from that record. But who knows what became of them? I hope that they would kind of look kindly on my version of events.
Do you think that by writing this book that they are kind of living on as well? Like their story hasn't finished because you are writing them into the Hounding?
Yes, I mean, I think so. Who knows if they yeah would want that or not? But I like to think that I have somehow endowed them with some sense of power or agency, which I felt was missing from the initial account of their case. In that rendering from that doctor, they come across as afflicted and passive. And I wanted to suggest, at least, that they might have had their own motivations, or their own reasons and their own power, as I say.
Yeah, I think your writing really makes them more human, even if we never see their own point of view. It really serves as a reminder that, the sisters in your book and the real life girls that they are based on, they are just girls and they are just trying to live their lives and do the best that they can in, a really cruel world that is inflicting so much of that patriarchy on them.
Yes, I mean, despite the fact that we never access their point of view, I did try to offer tiny glimpses of them in their home environment. Two of the perspectives we follow, the grandfather, and then there's the farm hand called Thomas, who's desperately in love with one of the sisters. I feel like they have a sort of softer view of the girls, and we see the girls at home, and bickering as sisters sometimes do, and playing and being wonderful and inventive. And so I hope that in those little glimpses we get a feeling of their lives and personalities.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that we even kind of get a little bit of their opinion of the world that they're in. There's a part, I won't try to find it, but I do have my copy here and it's all tabbed. It's somewhere in there, highlighted and underlined, where one of the younger sisters, she says something along the lines of wanting to be a pebble because pebbles are not encumbered by breasts and blood. And, as she's starting to become a woman, and she's like, I don't want this because this is not a world to be a woman in. This is not a town to be a woman in. And that really struck home for me. I just found it very powerful.
Yes, I think the girls are constantly contending with the limitations that their very patriarchal society imposes on them. That character, Hester, I so enjoyed bringing to life because I think she is so full of kind of fire and spirit, and she doesn't want to be limited. And I so appreciated that about her. I feel like she has a lot of courage. that I can't always claim to have myself. So it was really exhilarating to, imagine her views on things. It was wonderful.
Well, we've definitely talked a lot about different aspects of the novel today. But one of my favorite questions to ask authors is if you could describe the book in one word, what would it be?
Such an agonizing question.
I know.
I think, yes, if I really had to dig down, I would say atmospheric. I really love novels that create atmosphere through weather and landscape and mood. And I really hope that I've achieved that with The Hounding. At least that was a kind of intention when I began writing.
Yeah, no, I definitely think you did. It is very atmospheric and like you said, the landscape, the weather adds to it, the way that the townspeople interact with one another, the happenings that may or may not be real throughout the town. It definitely lends to the atmosphere of the story.
Oh, well, I'm thrilled to hear that. Thank you.
It's so good. I love this book.
So happy to hear that. Thank you so much. I so
Of course.
appreciate these really thoughtful questions. It's such a joy to talk about it with you.
Yeah, it was so amazing getting to discuss The Hounding with you today. And I literally cannot wait for it to publish on August 5th and for everybody to read it. I'm going to put it in everyone's hands.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. It's wonderful of you. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you again for talking with us today.
It's been such a joy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA site at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!